struck him out looking. It's over.
The Silver Boot Series was advantage Texas coming into tonight, Sunday, and then the entire script flipped. Welcome into Bleav in Texas Rangers, everyone. I'm Mitch Vareldis, back here after the Sunday night loss for the Rangers, 3-1 in favor of the Astros. The third game of this four-game set. There's still the Monday night affair on deck. We will touch on that later. But given that it is the end of a complete week, the least we can do is recap how things went for the Rangers in the first three. And given that we are coming off of the Sunday night affair, we will start right there. And this was by far one of the weaker performances that we've seen out of the Rangers so far in this young season. At least in the loss to the Cubs last Sunday, there was signs of offense. The pitching was very much struggling, but there was signs of offense there. The Rays series, it feels like the offense was pretty consistent throughout, other than the one loss. But this was by far the biggest struggle bust that the Rangers have been on this year. Ronel Blanco, who's fantastic story, but we're not here to talk about the Astros, of course. He kept his streak of no-hit innings to 14 plus tonight, carrying over from his no-hitter against Toronto last week, and then collecting no hits through the first 5 and change tonight. It's just really hard to win a baseball game when you don't score runs. And they'll say, you can say pitching wins championships, defense wins championships. And I tell you what, pitching was pretty solid tonight. Defense was pretty solid tonight. The offense was far from solid tonight. They only scored one run, and it didn't come until the final inning of this game. And it came off of Josh Hader, who's had a rough start to the season. So if nothing else, you know that Josh Hader is a little bit vulnerable out there, despite being one of the best closers in the league. But Dane Dunning threw a quality start, struck out 7, allowed the big hit of the game, the home run that brought all 3 runs in, but there was nothing to back up Dane tonight. The Rangers themselves only had 2 hits, and neither one of them was for extra bases. Up until the 9th inning, the furthest any Ranger had gotten was second base. It was not a good night for the offense whatsoever. And instead of picking apart members of this offense, we can celebrate a couple of things. Number one, Justin Foscue, congratulations. You got your first Major League hit and a Major League RBI tonight, pinch hitting for Evan Carter in the 9th inning. So congrats to Justin. That's an awesome honor to receive. But outside of that, it was Adolis García kind of looked vulnerable for the first time against Houston in a while. He had absolutely massacred them in the first couple of games of the season, and yet tonight he was almost non-existent. He struck out twice. One of those pitches was right down the middle, and it was off-speed changeup, which differed from the high-speed fastball he had gotten the pitch before, so as a result, he was probably thrown off by the timing. But it was not the best night for Adolis. I understand he got the team's first hit. He got on base in the bottom of the 9th and eventually came around to score. Like, Adolis was still working hard until the very last out, but this was not his night in comparison to the other nights that came before this. And it's a real bummer, too, because the Rangers had looked so strong in the first couple of games, not just offensively, but with their pitching, too. And in particular, the bullpen. We have an update on Josh Spores, by the way, we'll get to in a sec. But the bullpen has been solid, given everything that they've been dealing with for the last, week or so. It's mostly highlighted by Jose Leclerc, but Jose even looked a lot better when called upon on short notice to get 4 outs last night in a game that was not super close for the Astros. But now we're in a situation where the bullpen is going to need great outings from Jose Leclerc. They're going to need great outings from Kirby Yates and Brock Burke and even Grant Anderson, who just got called up to replace Spores because Josh is going on the 15-day IL with rotator cuff soreness, or rotator cuff strain, which, not good. Especially when he immediately recognized that it was something that was bothering him only, 8 pitches into his outing on Saturday night. Just another tough blow for Texas, unfortunately, this early on in the season. Man, pitching has really been bit by the injury bug. Michael Lorenzen's still working his way back. I think I saw him in the dugout tonight, so he should be available for the Rangers soon, you would think. Max Scherzer on the ESPN broadcast was talking about how he's going to face live hitters soon. His word against, I don't know if anyone else in the organization has mentioned anything about his timeline, but that's definitely encouraging. But this team's really, really snake bitten right now, and they need the best out of their pitching. And they absolutely got the best out of their pitching tonight. And the offense let them down. The offense let them down, and the umpiring let them down. Let's make all things equal here. There were some very off the plate pitches called for a strike tonight. And it was just not a good look. And there have been some bad looks with umpiring across Major League Baseball today, even with Yankees Blue Jays. Angel Hernandez was behind the plate. I don't need to say anything beyond that. I'm sure many of you that follow Angel Hernandez are aware by now. But this loss kind of, I'm not going to say it like killed the momentum necessarily. They still have a chance to take 3 out of 4 against Houston and claim the first Silver Boot series. But this one was kind of a letdown. Not kind of a letdown. It was a letdown, especially with how well Dane threw. The bullpen coming in with Garrett Anderson getting a clutch out of Jose Altuve with a runner on. Jacob Latz threw really, really well in his one inning of work. And then same for Yeri Rodriguez. Was high on the pitch count for Yeri, but he got the job done. Kept the offense down. It was one mistake pitch to Yordan Alvarez was the difference tonight. And if that mistake pitch isn't thrown, who knows? Maybe we're talking about a Rangers walk-off win. You never know. So that was tonight. Shout out Dane, 6 2/3, 4 hits, 3 runs, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts on 97 pitches. So far this season, he has been absolutely nails, to say the least. As I'm pulling up both of his games here. So far, he's pitched 2 games, and both times he's pitched into the 7th inning of said games. The one against the Rays, and then, of course, the one tonight against Houston. So 13 total innings. He's allowed 7 hits, 6 runs, 3 home runs. That'll be something that Dane will need to work on, as well as 7 walks. That might help get the pitch counts down. But 14 strikeouts, and his whip sits at 108. He's been everything that you could have asked for, and he's looking a lot like the Dane Dunning that we got through the month of September last year and even going into the postseason when he was put into the bullpen for the most part and stretched out as a long reliever. This is very encouraging to see because Dane is a guy that the Rangers obviously had a high upside on when they got him from the White Sox, and you can only hope that this is going to be a sign of good things to come. Because Dane's going to be an important part of this rotation up until Max Scherzer returns, Michael Lorenzen enters potentially, Tyler Mahle eventually returns, Jacob deGrom returns at the end of, or with little left in the regular season. Like, to get an outing like this that they got from Dane is very, very encouraging. And I'm looking forward to seeing if not only he can keep this up, but if the Rangers can maybe give him some offensive support the next time that Dane's on the mound. Let's talk about the 2 wins. So, starting with Saturday, a comeback win, a game that they were, well, it was more like they blew it open, I should say. I'll correct myself. They scored 4 runs in the bottom of the 8th against this Astros bullpen, which has been a bit of a struggle bus to start the year. Ryan Presley giving up the 4 runs in just a third of an inning pitch on 5 hits allowed. And the offense really performed well. Leody Taveras at the bottom of the order went 2 for 4. A couple of runs and 1 driven in. Evan Carter finally got his first hit of the season despite him having the absurd on-base percentage of .406 going at the end of that game, I should say. So Evan finally getting into the hit column was nice to see. Wyatt Langford had a great game as well. He went 2 for 5. The offense was really clicking, and not only the Saturday, but I tell you what, man, the statement that they made in the opener of that series on Friday when they brought home 5 runs in the bottom of the 2nd off of Hunter Brown, man, that If I had my way, I had other commitments that evening. But if I had my way, I would have done an emergency podcast just for that win because that was such a great win. Cody Bradford, got to talk about him. Second start of the season, and this is by far his deepest outing, I think, in his major league career. 7 2/3, 2 hits allowed, a run, 4 strikeouts on 97 pitches, 72 of them he threw for strikes. It was, without a doubt, a defining outing for Cody. Coupled with the fact that he's very young and asked to fill a big role in this rotation, I should say. It was against the Astros. It was the first game against the Astros since the ALCS, and you're trying to break an 8-game losing streak to this Houston Astros team in Globe Life Park. And he went out and was dominant. He was nails. He found every little nook and cranny and perfectly placed every single pitch that he wanted that evening. It was by far the best pitching outing we've seen next to Nate Eovaldi's Tampa Bay performance. That has to make you feel really good too. If Eovaldi and Bradford pitch like that out of 1-2, you get a rough start out of John Gray, so maybe you get 2 out of 3 every series. And then on the next go around, you got Dane Dunning, Andrew Heaney, who curious to see how he does tomorrow night, and then Nate Eovaldi again. You're pretty much set until you can have guys that fill back in those rotation spots. And I tell you what, I don't think Cody Bradford, is in danger of any sort of demotion from his current role based on the way he's pitching. By no means is Cody going to find himself relegated to a bullpen spot or sent back down to AAA. Cody's here to stay. And if nothing else, he proved that on Friday night. Marcus Semien had a home run in the 6th inning. That officially gave the Rangers their 10 total runs against Houston in that first game. Adolis García, we know by now that he definitely gets up for this series. In that Friday game, he went 2 for 4, 4 RBI, a run, 3 of those coming in on a home run that he hit in the 2nd inning on a pitch, which, by the way, was like up at the top of the letters where he swung at it. The dude is ridiculous the way he can successfully just make bad ball contact, you know? It's very reminiscent of Vlad Guerrero, Rangers legend Vlad Guerrero. Obviously said facetiously, but it's the same idea of if this pitch is anywhere in a hittable range for Adolis, he can probably hit it and make it very damaging for the opponent. We saw that for sure with his home run on Friday night. So I was amped up after the Friday night win. The Saturday win was a nice little, cherry topping on the Sunday, I guess. And then this loss was kind of a bummer. Well, not kind of a bummer. It was a bummer because there was a lot that went well and there was a lot that definitely needs to get improved on. But we know for a fact that this team will have the opportunity to improve on it tomorrow. We'll get more into tomorrow's game and then the next series for the Rangers coming up shortly. Let's see how Wyatt Langford did. Let's do our little Wyatt watch here. So Langford in the first game against the Astros went 1 for 4, scored a run, drove in a run, and walked. In the second game, Langford 2 for 5, a run and an RBI, also struck out. I should mention that Langford was the DH hitting third in game 1, DH hitting third in game 2, and then today, DH hitting third in a game where there was only 2 hits, as you can imagine. Wyatt didn't really do all that much. So on the season now, his slash line sits at 237 average, 286 on base, and 316 slugging. We're still waiting for that first home run. I was optimistic that it was going to happen in this series. There's still 1 game left for him to accomplish said feat. And I know that a lot of Rangers fans, based on the comments I'm seeing from Twitter and the Discord chat that I'm chilling in for most nights, the Reddit threads, etc., everybody is absolutely waiting and about ready to burst. Like the bubble is at its peak level of elasticity, for lack of a better word. It's about ready to explode. Like, any more pent up energy about Langford and the opportunity that he has to get a home run and for his first major league home run to be against the team's biggest rival. Oh, could you imagine if he were to hit a home run Monday night? It would be the greatest moment of the season, without question, no matter the circumstance. It is Wyatt Langford will have officially introduced himself to the rivalry should he hit a home run against the Astros in their Monday night game and the closer of this series. And I don't want that to sound like I'm putting pressure on the guy, because there's already the inherent pressure of being a last year draft pick that has rocketed through the minor league system, made the opening day roster, and is going to be a key part in the lineup every day until otherwise said. I mean, like I said, he was the DH and hitting third in every game so far in this series. And he's probably going to DH and hit third tomorrow, barring an off day. Everything's set up for this moment to be super duper special should it actually happen. But enough talking about it. We'll hope that it happens. As I said, Josh Spore's real bummer. That Saturday game, he had to be taken out. They determined it was a rotator cuff strain. He'd been placed on the 15-day IL, Grant Anderson got the corresponding call-up, and then, as I mentioned, he got the big strikeout of Jose Altuve with a runner on tonight to stop the bleeding. Another injury update. Max Scherzer, as I also mentioned, he says he's going to face live hitters soon. He told that to the ESPN crew tonight. And Nathaniel Lowe was sitting right next to him, and he even joked that Nathaniel Lowe is going to be one of the live hitters. So maybe those two are on similar recoveries, similar tracks to getting back. And man, wouldn't that be a boost if you could get them back by like early to middle of May? I'm not necessarily rushed to have Scherzer back, and Jared Walsh, as we've discussed, has played well enough to very much maintain a spot in the order and defensively. Oh man, that defensive play he had tonight was chef's kiss. So I'm not necessarily rushed for Nathaniel, and I want him to be healthy. And the same for Max. Like, the pitching and the offense has done well enough outside of tonight's offense to manage while they're away. So let's just hope they get ready to go healthy. Got to talk about this. This is interesting. So I don't know how many of you follow Jersey Gate or Jersey Info, et cetera, et cetera. What the best way I can explain this is, it was reported via Dallas Morning News that the Rangers were supposed to have their City Connect uniforms for the Friday night opener against the Astros, except they didn't have them. And so as a result, they ended up pivoting as to what jerseys they were going to wear. I think they switched to the home opener whites, not the ones with the gold trim, I don't believe, just the regular home whites. The part where this story gets interesting is, heaven forbid we have something else to criticize Nike/Fanatics/MLB about. Not only do the Rangers not have their City Connect unis ready to go, apparently the Brewers also did not have their City Connect unis ready to go for their Friday opener against the Mariners. What are we doing? There's already so much scrutiny around this year's edition of the uniforms, and you can't even properly distribute them on time before the start of the season? I mean, what the actual hell? I don't understand how this could have been botched so badly to the point that it's almost sickening. I mean, I saw a video. I think the Angels had a home opener recently, and so they have the red carpet area, and Carlos Estevez, their closer, he's signing jerseys, and he's holding the jersey that one of the fans hands him, and he's like shaking his head, he's showing it off, and he jokes like the jerseys that he was wearing, the new ones, he thinks they're terrible. Said that publicly on video. The jerseys are terrible. And we don't need to go down the rabbit hole. We already know. We as fans have been complaining about the jerseys all offseason. We get it. But it once again gets its own spotlight when stuff like this happens. The reports went on to say that the City Connect should be ready for the next time that Texas will be at home, like the next homestand, I should say, April 26th against Cincinnati. That's a Friday. So great. We have to wait a couple more weeks before we see those beautiful boys. God, those City Connects are just, they're so clean. They're so clean. I hope they don't get butchered by this new manufacturing plan that they have set out for themselves. But I will say it was pretty frustrating to read that because, man, heaven forbid anything else had to go wrong as far as the jerseys were concerned, and literally something goes wrong. Time to be concerned about the jerseys again. Go figure. Well, she mentioned this too, given criticism being thrown about. So MLBPA union head Tony Clark, or the executive director of the Players Association, I should say, they're calling out the pitch clock being shortened this offseason. So if you don't know, the pitch clock, when it was introduced, it used to be 15 seconds between pitches when there are no runners on base, and then it would extend to 20. Now, it's 18 seconds when there's runners on base, 30 seconds in between hitters, and I believe it is still 15 in between pitches with no runners on. And the argument presented by Clark and the union is that already this year, Shane Bieber, Spencer Strider, Jonathan Loaizaga, Yuri Perez, and Trevor Gott have all been diagnosed with elbow injuries, and their seasons are basically over. Like, Strider for sure, Bieber for sure, Perez for sure, and there's a good chance that Loaizaga and Gott are not going to come back this year either. Is it correlated? I don't know. But I bring it up because there's a recurring theme about this Rangers rotation. The health of the arms. Tyler Mahle is coming off of reconstructive surgery on his elbow. Jacob deGrom has had to have multiple reconstructive surgeries in the elbow area. Is it worthwhile to be worried about the shortened pitch clock, especially when you've got prized pitchers that are coming back off of recovering and recurring, especially for deGrom, elbow injuries? Now, the league had countered and said there's no corollary, et cetera, but I mean, what do you expect? Then all of a sudden it becomes a discussion about, well, how are we bringing up our kids when it comes to showing them the right pitch mix and what's proper in terms of pitching and how should they pitch and what pitches should they be throwing? I don't want to get too into the weeds. I will say, though, this is probably going to be something that's brought up again should somebody else suffer a major elbow injury as a pitcher. And there are a lot of Rangers pitchers that throw super duper hard. And there are studies that are done of understanding frequency of velocity in a certain time frame and the damage that it can do on any of those ligaments within the elbow. I, of course, wouldn't want it to happen, but I do worry about it being something that becomes a major focus of the Rangers, given that they have a pitching staff that has had recurring elbow issues in the past. So something to keep an eye on there. Curious to see how it develops. Curious to see if MLB continues to back the decision that they made to shorten the pitch clock and the pitch times between. I mean, I will say this. The pitch clock has been very great from a fan perspective in terms of taking a game that used to be 3 to 3.5 hours and making it now 2.5 to 3 hours. I will take that. The game didn't need that unnecessary minutia in between pitches. Like, it's one thing if we're focusing on health of pitchers. It's another thing if we're talking about it from the perspective of how do we keep our fans more engaged in the game? Well, we're definitely more engaged now. At least I can say that for myself when the pitch clock was introduced last year. I just think that still it needs to be properly evaluated year after year by the competition committee so that they can find that perfect sweet spot so that we're not seeing great pitchers like Spencer Strider and great young talents like Yuri Perez calling it a season before they even get a chance to really get into the season. It's devastating, man. It sucks. Speaking of pitchers and young talents, Jack Leiter, starting the season in AAA, he's pretty much on the fast track at this point, where I think it's okay that we can do a nice little lighter watch, a Jack check-in, a check on Jack, whatever the expression. But anyway, he's 2 starts into his AAA season. Against Sugarland, he went 5 innings, allowed a couple of hits, a couple of runs, and he struck out 9. 9 strikeouts in 5 innings. And then in his start a couple of days ago, April 6th against El Paso, he only went 3 1/3 innings this go around. Allowed 3 hits, couple of runs. One of them was under, walked 3. That's a stark difference from his first start was the walks. And then got 6 Ks. Obviously, we shouldn't be freaking out about how many innings is he going to get. How many innings should he get? It's a non-starter for me. He's like the future of the rotation as far as I'm concerned. He's 23 years old. Let's not wear out the arm before it gets a chance to actually shine at the big league level, please. But he's pitching well, and I wonder if it'll constitute soon a call-up if somebody's continuing to struggle / another injury should come around. Not that I'm rooting for an injury, but you have Jack Leiter there and ready to go at a moment's notice. All right, so let's close things up. Let's take a look ahead to tomorrow's game against the Astros. This will be the series closer. As apologies, there's my camera goes out if you're watching on the stream. So it'll be Andrew Heaney and Framber Valdez tomorrow. Pair of lefties. Framber Valdez, the ace of the Rangers rotation. And then Heaney coming off of a very short start where he only pitched into the 5th inning, but he struck out 7. Didn't walk anybody. That was encouraging to see, but the balls and strikes still need to be controlled a little bit better. So he'll try to close out that series with a win. And then up next for Texas, after the Astros game, they welcome the Oakland A's to town. So that sounds like 1, 2, 3 wins that they're going to get right there. Not to get ahead of myself, but it is the A's. Come on, let's be real. You'll go back to the top of the rotation on Tuesday against Oakland. That'll be Nate Eovaldi against Alex Wood. Wednesday, you'll go back to Cody Bradford. He'll go against Ross Stripling. And then the series finale, a Thursday matinee, that'll be John Gray against JP Sears. So you're getting the top part of Oakland's rotation. And Zach Geloff, I know, is coming off a really good game against Detroit earlier today. Can't remember if they won. JJ Bleav looks pretty solid as part of their lineup. It's the Oakland A's. Like it's a very hard team to judge because it's a miserable situation that they're in with their ownership group. And yeah, I don't think I need to say more. You guys understand. Speaking of the A's, though, it turns out that the final game of the year for the Oakland Coliseum will be when the Rangers are in attendance on Thursday in late September. So if you're one of the baseball diehards out there and you're like, oh, I want to see the Coliseum one last time, consider making a trip. You don't go for the experience of like, oh, it's a super nice ballpark. You go for the sake of it's the Coliseum and it's a historic building. And pretty soon there will be no one else playing there. And that's going to do it for this edition of Bleav in Texas Rangers. We'll be back after the A's series, if not a little bit sooner, and then get you ready for the next upcoming series when Texas goes back out on the road. A really long road trip coming up that we'll get into the next episode. Rangers coming off a 3-1 loss tonight, looking to get back into the win column tomorrow against the Astros. So until next time, Bleav in Texas Rangers.